Hi everybody, thanks for joining me as we take a look at a chance for some severe thunderstorms here this evening, September 8th. I don't think the threat is super high, but it's definitely worth you knowing what's going on. So we're going to talk about why it's going to happen, or why the potential is there for it to happen. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the details, what to watch out for. But as a spoiler alert, it's really some stronger winds that we'd be mostly worried about, and some briefly heavy rain, but not enough rain to cause any kind of flooding problem. So this is really mostly a wind and just briefly heavy rain kind of event. So if we take a look at what's going on now, you can see one, we've got kind of a stationary front that is still sort of sliding. Usually when it goes like this, it's got the cold front and the warm front symbols on it, means it's not moving. However, I think this is still slowly sliding a little bit north of us, which is moving us into a warmer, more humid air mass. You probably felt that if you've been outside this morning as it has started to warm up. And to our west, we do have a pretty good line of showers, a little bit of thunder matched in with this as well, and a cold front, which is associated with a big a big low pressure system over central Canada that is kind of dragging the front through and going to give us our chance of thunderstorms. If we take a look on satellite, you can see that storm, very well developed storm up to our north in Canada as we start to transition more into a fall-like weather pattern. And here's our front, pretty well defined, touched off some pretty good thunderstorms over the Great Lakes region last night. One thing you'll notice here across the east is that you can see the Connecticut River there, really well defined. The low level clouds and fog held on pretty tight in the river valleys. Even had some of that here in the West River Valley, although certainly it's more of those deeper river valleys where that's holding on. So if you're like, why is it really going to warm up and get humid today? Yeah, even in those places, eventually those clouds will burn off. We'll get sunny. We'll get enough sun to give us some heating of the day. Actually, the storms are going to roll through late enough here today that I think that's going to save us from having a chance at a more significant chance of a severe weather outbreak. But in terms of what's happening, what's the trigger mechanism, here's your dew points, and you can see where we're green in the dark greens, those are lower 60s and then mid 60 dew points in the more blue colorations here. And you can see that as of this morning, this is this morning at about 8 o'clock with the last model analysis, and basically telling you that we are starting to see those higher dew points really move into our area. Dew points will increase today, not to any kind of crazy midsummer levels, but mid to even some upper 60 dew points, which is pretty humid for this time of year. And when you've got a front to trigger into some warm, moist air like that, it does give you a chance for some thunderstorms, definitely. But sorry, let's take a look at here. We've looked at these once in a while before. This is kind of a weather nerd thing, but the reason there's a chance of severe weather this is the balloon launch in Albany, which they do at 12Z, which is 12 London time, and so which was 7 o'clock this morning. And so basically, as we look at one, you can see temperatures decreasing pretty good with as you go up in elevation or up into the atmosphere, and that's where you provide the potential energy there for these thunderstorms. Also the wind. If you see the wind direction coming out of the south at the surface, but then turning around clockwise to the west or southwest, at least, as you go up into the atmosphere, that also provides the chance for some more rotation with thunderstorms and things like that. Gives a chance for just stronger development of thunderstorms as well, and some potentially stronger winds at the surface. And we have pretty good jet stream, quite a bit of not much wind at the surface, but just above the surface we have some wind. So as you get a thunderstorm, it gives a chance for those winds to be drawn down to the surface. So in terms of the impacts, so we're looking at a moderate rainfall impact. Like I said, not going to be a flooding rain. You're going to look down here, flooding very slight. Really not worried about the flooding potential, even as wet as it's been. Probably an inch to an inch and a half. You'll see that in the next slide is what we'd be looking for. But rainfall, it could be very heavy rain briefly. So if you're driving around and it gets really heavy, the point where you can't see, it's always, this is one of these. It's only going to do that for 15-20 minutes at most. So feel free to pull off to the side of the road for a few minutes if you can't see, or really slow down and be careful. Wind, there's a moderate potential for some wind issues. So the biggest issues with that would be down trees and power lines. So I would anticipate a few power outages here in Southern Vermont. I don't think it'll be widespread. I don't think you need to plan for days without power. We're talking maybe 6 to 12 hours at worst, probably, for some of the worst hit spots. But just be prepared. You might lose power this evening. In terms of other timing details, we're looking at 7 to 9 p.m. tonight. Rainfall of 1 to 1.5 inches could come down pretty quick, so you could get that 1.5 inches of rain in 20 minutes. So at least the roads will get a lot of water on them briefly, but it'll go right away. No real flooding issues. Wind damage possible, and there'll be a lot of lightning probably with these storms, so be ready for that. In terms of, let me go to my last slide here. Locations, I think those western areas not protected by mountains, which are often our most significant potential areas for thunderstorms, will be the places where that happens the most likely. So the Rutland area, the Bennington area, those would be your most likely spots. Also, there's a little bit more of a potential to the west than to the east. Basically, we're losing the heating of the day as the storms move from west to east. So at 7 p.m. when the storms are kind of in the Rutland, Bennington area, you've got more heat still left over from the day. By 9 p.m., we lose our daylight by 7:15. It's starting to get pretty dark out there this time of year. And so what happens is, as those storms lose that heating of the day, then they lose that potential energy from the heat on the ground, and so that kind of tends to weaken the storms. Plus, they got to come over the mountains. So that does not to say that if you live in Springfield, you live in Brattleboro, or you live where I do, kind of in the center, in the Green Mountains, in places like Londonderry or down through Dover, Wilmington, those areas, you could still see thunderstorms, but I think you're more likely to see the stronger thunderstorms here to our west. So, like I said, just something to be aware of. If you've got outdoor plans tonight, be ready to seek shelter and be ready to potentially lose power for a few hours. Not going to be that big a deal. But otherwise, stay safe out there. I'll be back for everybody on Friday with a look at your weekend forecast.